Hey, imagine this. You're 18, barely a man, still smell like your mother's soap, and they hand you a rifle like it's a diploma. No ceremony, no handshake. Just a shove, a barked order, and a pair of boots 2 sizes too small. You don't know where you're going, just that it's hot and dry, and everyone comes back different if they come back at all. The train smells like metal, piss and panic. The uniform itches, the boots bleed. And there's a kid next to you asking how to load his AK because no one showed him. Welcome to the Soviet-Afghan war, where your enemy doesn't wear a uniform, where the mountains don't echo, they swallow, where heat stroke and hypothermia shake hands every night. You think this'll be like the movies? You're not even going to hear the first bullet. You'll just see red and then black, if you're lucky. And if you think you're tough, strong, trained, good for you. The train doesn't care. The Mujahideen don't care. Even your own officers barely care. This isn't glory. This isn't strategy. This is survival. And you wouldn't last a day. If you want more stories like this, give it a like and subscribe. It helps us keep telling them. Now close your eyes. You're not at home anymore. You're in a convoy, rolling south. And the air smells like diesel, dust and death. You wake up to shouting, not commands, not an alarm, just shouting. Raw, cracked voices barking in 3 different dialects over each other, like they're fighting for the air itself. The canvas above you flaps in the wind. The cot beneath you creaks as you shift. You're still in your boots. You haven't taken them off in 2 days. Too risky, too slow if something happens. You sit up. Your spine pops. Your mouth tastes like rust and rubber. Your uniform's soaked through with sweat and grime. Stiff at the edges where the salt dried hours ago. You've stopped trying to scrub it out. It always comes back. The tent flap swings open. Cold air rushes in, carrying dust and diesel. Someone tosses a ration pack onto your chest like it's a dead animal. You nod. He doesn't. No one talks unless they have to. Words waste moisture, and lips are already cracking. You crawl out into the light. It hits you like a slap. Dry heat, pale sky, dust blowing sideways, no trees, no clouds, no colour, just beige hills and beige roads, and beige rocks with blood-dried brown between the cracks. You cough. Doesn't help. The dust is already in your throat, your lungs, your soul. A voice shouts something about a recon patrol. You stop listening after gear up. The rest is noise. You check your rifle. AKS-74. Beat to hell, barrel pitted, safety sticks. Magazine was taped up 3 days ago after it cracked from the cold. You pull the bolt back. Feels rough. Still works. Probably. Your webbing sags with canteens, extra mags, and things you never use but were ordered to carry. Your bayonet's dull, your boots are split near the toes. Your feet scream every time you take a step. You fall into formation. 12 of you. Faces grey with dirt. Eyelids heavy from 2 hours of broken sleep. One guy's chewing something, might be paper. You don't ask. The lieutenant walks by, smug and clean like he's in a training film. Too young, too loud, too far from the front lines in his own head. He taps his map, points toward the ridgeline, says something about strategic terrain. You don't hear him. You're too busy watching the wind kick up dust like it's warning you. The truck rattles as it pulls up. ZIL 131. Engine sounds like it's dying slowly. You pile in. No seats, just metal and knees and elbows. The tarp flaps above your head as the driver guns it. You roll through a dead valley. The wind's louder than the engine. Rocks blur past. Bullet holes scar an old gas station. A burnt-out car sits half sunk in a ditch. You don't look inside. No one speaks, just breathing. Just bouncing with the road and hoping the next turn doesn't come with a roadside bomb. You arrive. The truck stops too fast. The tailgate drops with a clank. You hop down, boots crunching on gravel, your knees bending just enough to not buckle. The lieutenant barks orders again. He sounds nervous. Good. That means something's real. You spread out, single file, 15 meters between bodies, just like training, except training didn't smell like cordite and rotting meat. You climb the ridge. Every step up is a fight. The rocks shift. Your pack leans. Sweat runs down your spine and pools in your belt line. Your rifle digs into your shoulder like it's trying to remind you it exists. Then you hear it. A pop. Distant. Sharp. Familiar. You freeze. Your sergeant's already dropped to a knee, scanning the horizon. You follow. Another pop. Closer this time. Same sound. Then crack. Louder. Immediate. Someone screams. You turn. It's the guy with the paper in his mouth. He's on the ground now, blood blooming under his chest like spilled ink. "Sniper!" someone yells. You hit the dirt. Dust sprays into your eyes. You blink. Can't see. Can't breathe. Can't think. You hear more shots. No rhythm, just chaos, like the mountain itself is firing back. Your heart is a drum in your ears. Your hands are wet. Not with sweat. You wipe them on your pants. Doesn't help. You lift your head just enough to see movement. A flash behind the rocks, then gone. The lieutenant is screaming into the radio. Too fast, too loud. The reply comes in broken static. You catch one word. Artillery. Then a new sound. A thump. Then another. You know that sound. Mortars. "Down!" someone yells, but it's too late. The ridge behind you erupts. Earth flies into the sky. You taste grit. Hear ringing. Feel heat on your neck. You check your body. Still whole, still breathing. The guy next to you isn't. He's missing his right arm. His eyes are open. His mouth too. But he's not making noise. He just stares at you. Like he wants to say something. Like he wants you to lie and say he's going to be okay. You look away. Your sergeant is motioning now. Retreat. Fall back. Get the hell out. You run. Down the slope, slipping, sliding, crashing into rocks. Your knees buckle twice. You don't stop. Behind you, more fire. Not directed. Just angry. You hit the bottom and dive behind the truck. Your chest heaves. Your mouth's full of dust. Someone hands you a canteen. You drink too fast. Almost puke. 4 of you made it back. The rest? Scattered. Dead. Bleeding somewhere up on that ridge. The lieutenant is pale now. He's not talking. Just staring at the radio like it owes him an explanation. You lean against the truck. Feel every muscle tremble. Your ears still ringing. Your boots soaked in something that's probably not water. You survived. For now. But you're not celebrating. You're just waiting. Because out here, it's never over. And the mountain isn't done with you. Welcome to the Soviet-Afghan War. This was your first patrol. And already, you know the truth. You wouldn't last a day. The boots don't fit, they never did. They handed them to you at the depot in Tashkent, shoved them across a steel counter and marked your name off a clipboard before you could speak. Size 43. You're a 41. Too bad. You tried to trade with a guy from Riga, but he's already missing 2 toes. Now he doesn't care what size he wears. He sleeps with his boots on even indoors. You understand why now. Your boots are too big, but somehow still manage to rub the skin off your heels. Blisters popped on day 1. On day 2, they bled. Now it's day 16, and your socks are red, stiff, frozen to the inside of your soles like carpet tape. You stopped trying to peel them off 3 days ago. You walk anyway. Through snow so dry it squeaks. Through rocks so sharp they slice open boot leather like bread. Through valleys where the wind screams louder than artillery and burns your cheeks until you taste blood on your teeth. This isn't a patrol, it's a slow-motion punishment. And winter? Winter is the warden. You came to Afghanistan expecting heat, dust, sun so bright it peeled the inside of your eyes. You got that. Now it's January, and the mountains don't care where you're from. They care about one thing killing you slowly. Your gloves are garbage. You lost one during a firefight and nobody had a spare. Now your right hand goes in and out of your coat like a bird hiding under its wing. The fingers are grey, cracked, useless when you shoot. You keep moving. Because stopping, that's not allowed anymore. You stop, you freeze, you stop, you stiffen. You stop, someone trips over your corpse on the way back down. The wind howls through the past like it's trying to say something. You don't want to know what. The lieutenant at the front of the column keeps looking at his map. You've stopped trusting maps. They lie. The roads they show don't exist. The towns they list were abandoned 5 years ago. Half the landmarks have been mined or flattened or renamed so many times they mean nothing now. He points left. No one asks why. You just shift your weight and follow, packs creaking, boots dragging, rifles clacking against frozen steel buckles. You're 30 clicks from anything that matters, and still they send you out here to observe. Observe what? Snow? The enemy isn't out here. Not this high, not this cold. But orders are orders, and Soviet bureaucracy is the only thing colder than this mountain. You reach a plateau around mid-morning. There's a clearing, a wide patch of wind-blasted nothing, and a truck, abandoned, stripped. Bullet holes through the windshield, the tyres shredded down to steel ribs. You approach carefully. The snow is shallow here, but that's worse. You see wires, thin copper strands running from the truck into the rock beside it. Booby trap. The sergeant sees it too. He raises a fist. Everyone stops. A guy from Georgia doesn't notice in time, takes one more step. Too far. You scream. He freezes mid-step, looks down, breath fogging in front of his face. His eyes are wide. His mouth opens. Then nothing. He steps back. No explosion, but the wire snapped. You all hit the dirt. The blast lifts the front of the truck clean off the ground. Debris rains down. Shards of metal ping across the rocks like shrapnel confetti. When the smoke clears, there's a crater where the snow used to be. The Georgian kid's gone, just gone. A red smear across 10 metres of rock. Nothing else. The lieutenant marks it in his notebook. Minefield. Confirmed. Then he moves on. You stay frozen for a second longer. Just long enough to realise your hands are shaking. Then you push yourself up and follow. Because that's the rule now. Don't think. Just walk. You reach a makeshift camp by sundown. Not a base. Not even a proper outpost. Just a few tarps strung between jagged rocks and a radio antenna tied to a rusted pipe. A steel drum burns something oily in the centre. It smells like fuel and melted plastic. A man you don't recognise is sitting by the fire with a bandage over his eye. No uniform, just a blanket. He doesn't speak, just stares into the flames like they're whispering secrets. You drop your pack, sit. Your spine pops again. You haven't felt your toes since noon. You unwrap one foot, slowly, gently. The sock comes off with skin. You curse under your breath. The guy next to you offers a strip of gauze from a torn medical pack. You nod your thanks. He doesn't nod back. No one's wasting energy on politeness anymore. You bandage your foot in silence. The fire crackles. Someone tries the radio. Static. The lieutenant tries again. Still static. He shrugs. We wait until morning. For what? Nobody asks. A runner arrives an hour later, breathless, frozen sweat across his eyebrows. He says HQ wants a full report. He hands the lieutenant a form, in triplicate. The lieutenant fills it out, carefully, top to bottom, all sections, even the ones that don't apply. The bureaucracy demands it. The war can wait. He writes the names of the wounded, the dead, lists the coordinates, the estimated temperature, how many rounds were fired, how many rations were consumed, what colour the sky was at noon. There's a section for morale. He pauses, then checks average. You almost laugh, but your lips are cracked and even smiling would hurt. You lie down near the fire, pull your coat over your face, try to sleep. You dream about boots that fit, socks that don't bleed, a floor that isn't made of frozen dirt. You dream about warm food and water that doesn't taste like rust. But the blizzard is still howling outside the tarp, and bureaucracy doesn't care if you're freezing to death. It just wants the paperwork done on time. It starts with an envelope. Grey, thin, folded unevenly like someone didn't care how it looked, just that it got there. You find it stuffed under your apartment door. No stamp, just your name and 5 numbers scribbled in blue ink. You already know what it is. Everyone knows what it is. You stare at it for a second, then open it. Inside, 3 lines. Report to enlistment office at 0600. Bring personal documents, no delay. There's no greeting, no closing, no signature. Just an order. You sit down on the edge of your bed, suddenly aware of how quiet your apartment is. The clock ticks too loud, the radiator hisses like it's judging you, and your hands are already shaking. You don't sleep that night. Because sleep is a luxury reserved for people with choices. At dawn, you pack. They said personal documents. So you bring your passport, your birth certificate, and a photo of your mother. You don't know why. You just do. You put on your best clothes, not because it matters, just because it might be the last time you wear them. Outside, the air is frozen and grey. The streets are empty. Too early for traffic. Too late to turn around. You walk to the recruitment centre, a cement block building, no windows, just a steel door and a red sign that says Venkamat. You knock. A voice yells, "Enter." You do. Inside, a hallway that smells like wet socks and old paper, a man in a green uniform takes your name and shoves you into a room with 20 others. Boys, mostly. A few already drunk. One looks like he's 12. You sit. Wait. Nobody talks. An officer enters, clipboard in hand. He calls out names. You listen. You nod when yours is called. He doesn't look up. You're herded into another room, told to strip. The exam is fast, indifferent. They check your chest, your teeth, your eyesight. They don't ask questions. They don't explain anything. They just mark things down and move on. A man with a cigarette clenched between his teeth stamps a paper and says, "Fit for service." That's it. You're in. No ceremony, no oath, no time to think. Just a duffel bag and a bus ticket. You sit in the back of the bus next to a guy from Murmansk who smells like vodka and fear. He doesn't speak, just stares out the window like he's trying to memorize every tree. The bus drives for hours. Through villages, past train yards, across frozen bridges that groan under the weight of metal and fate. You arrive at a base somewhere outside of Novosibirsk. The barracks are wooden, warped, smell like mildew and regret. A sergeant greets you with a shout. "Welcome to the army, Tovarishchi. No one gives a damn if you're scared." He's got a scar down his cheek and a stare like a rifle barrel. You stand in line. They hand you a uniform, olive green, stiff as cardboard, smells like mothballs and diesel. You put it on. Doesn't fit. No one cares. Next, your weapon. AK-74, used, scratched, sights crooked. The sergeant shoves it into your hands and says, "Get used to it. This is your wife now." You want to ask how to clean it, how to fire it, where the safety is. You don't ask. You just nod. Training begins the next day, except it's not training. It's punishment. You run, you crawl, you dig trenches in frozen ground with a shovel so bent it may as well be a spoon. The instructors scream. They scream when you breathe wrong, when you move too slow, when you ask questions. One guy dislocated his shoulder during a fall. They taped it up and told him to keep going. He did. For 2 days. Then he collapsed. They carried him away. No one's seen him since. You learn fast how to sleep sitting up, how to drink water in 5 seconds, how to fire your rifle without flinching. You don't aim, you just shoot. That's all they expect. At night you lie in your bunk and stare at the ceiling. You can hear the guy below you whispering to himself, not in fear, in practice, like he's trying to hold on to language. You start to forget words too. Not because of trauma, but because nothing here needs them. Here, communication is simple. Yes, Sergeant. No, Sergeant. I didn't see anything. I don't know who did it. Sometimes you wonder if you will ever be allowed to feel things again. Then one day, they gather you in a courtyard. The air is thick with snow. Your breath comes out in clouds. An officer steps forward with a clipboard. Deployment list, he says. He starts reading names. Your name is 3rd. Destination, Kandahar. You hear it. You feel your stomach drop. You don't react. You just nod. Because nodding is safer than thinking. The next morning you're on a plane. It's loud, cold, packed shoulder to shoulder with boys who were civilians just weeks ago. Some are praying, some are laughing. One guy's crying, quietly. You pretend not to notice. The plane smells like oil and vomit. And when it lifts off, you feel everything you used to be, everything you used to know drop away behind you. There's no going back now. You've been drafted. No, you didn't get a choice. You thought training would teach you something, that it would shape you, harden you, prepare you. Instead, it breaks you. Not with brutality, not right away. That comes later. It starts slow, mundane, stupid. Day 1, you're told to stand at attention for 6 hours in a blizzard because someone didn't shave properly. No one says who. You all suffer. That's the point. Your boots are already soaked. Your socks stiff. Frost creeping into your heels like glass threading its way into bone. Day 2, you're told to dig a trench that's already been dug, filled and dug again by the group before you. It's punishment disguised as instruction, a loop of pointlessness. You dig anyway, because not digging gets you noticed, and being noticed is worse than being cold. The instructor's name is Sokolov. Broad shoulders, crooked teeth, voice like he gargled gravel and pride. He doesn't yell out of anger. He yells because silence makes him nervous. You're not here to become heroes, he barks. You're here to stay alive long enough to be forgotten. You believe him. The AKs they give you are rusted and mismatched. Some magazines don't feed properly. One guy's firing pin shears off on day 3. It takes a medic 2 hours to remove the splintered shard from his cheek. The firing range is a joke. Targets painted on plywood, half bullet-riddled, half frozen solid. They wobble in the wind like they're trying to dodge. You take aim. You miss. No one tells you how to correct. No one shows you your stance. Just shoot again. So you shoot again. Until the magazine clicks dry and your shoulder aches and your hands smell like carbon and failure. You clean the rifle. Wrong at first. Too gentle, then too rough. Then you get it right. Mostly. The instructor watches, doesn't say anything, then walks away. That's how you know you passed. Your sleeping quarters are a concrete box with 30 bunks and 1 flickering light. No heat, no insulation. One guy wakes up with ice on his eyebrows. Another just doesn't wake up at all. Heart failure, they say. Exposure, you think? Doesn't matter now. You clean his bed before anyone notices. Fold the blanket. Pretend he never existed. By the end of week 1, half your unit has diarrhea, 5 have frostbite, and one guy from Belarus tried to hang himself in the latrine with a bootlace. They cut him down in time. Told him it was cowardice. You don't know if he agrees. You don't ask. Week 2, they introduce grenades. You're shown once how to pull the pin, how to throw, how to not aim at your own feet. Then they give you one. Live. Your hands shake. You throw. Too short. The blast sends dirt flying. Your hearing rings for a full minute. You feel your pulse in your teeth. Sokolov smiles. You lived. That's the lesson. Later that night, someone jokes that the grenades were safer than the meat they served at dinner. You almost laugh, but then someone else throws up blood in the corner, and it doesn't feel funny anymore. You stop talking. That's what training does. It teaches you to shut up, to stop asking, to stop noticing. You watch the strong get weaker. You watch the loud get quieter. You watch the ones who cared learn to stop. Week 3, you're marched through a gas drill without masks. Hold your breath, they say. You do, but not long enough. Your eyes burn, your lungs scream, you fall to your knees and vomit bile that tastes like rusted iron. No one helps you up. That's not the drill. That's the point. By now you don't know what day it is, you barely know your name. You haven't looked in a mirror since the first week. You're afraid to see what's missing. Your letters from home are opened before you get them. Half are censored. The other half come with coffee stains and boot prints. One says your brother got a job at the post office. You reread that line 5 times. Not because it matters, but because it feels like something from another life. You fold it, keep it in your breast pocket. The ink is already bleeding from sweat. Week 4, you're told you're ready. You're not. You know you're not. But no one asks. The uniforms are pressed, the boots polished, the bags packed. They give you an extra ration bar and a fresh magazine. The sergeant reads a speech you won't remember. Then they march you onto the train platform like cargo with names. You look at the boys around you. Some stare straight ahead, some look at their feet. A few smile. You don't trust them. You board. The door slams shut. The train lurches forward. The cold air slips away behind you. And in its place, heat, fear, diesel, sweat, iron. You're leaving the motherland, headed south. They say Afghanistan. But what they mean is the end of everything you thought this would be. You're trained now, if you can call it that. You leave Moscow under grey skies and the smell of winter oil. The train is packed with bodies, too many for the seats. Half the men stand clinging to handrails or leaning against their rucksacks like they're already exhausted. No one talks. The windows fog, the metal walls sweat. Every now and then the car jolts hard enough to knock someone off balance. You're one of them. Your pack is heavy, not with gear, with the weight of knowing. You're going to war. There's no fanfare, no music, no waving flags or posters, just a lieutenant with a clipboard and a stamped list from a desk in some office far away from where the bullets land. The train rolls south, past forests, then farmland, then nothing. You see towns blur by, frozen streets, crooked roofs, kids playing soccer in cracked fields. They don't look up at the train. They don't wave. Maybe they don't know what's inside. Or maybe they do and they've already stopped caring. You sleep when you can, eat when it's handed to you, smoke if someone offers. Nobody shares stories. Nobody talks about what's ahead. You don't ask questions because the silence has its own rules, and right now you follow them all. When the train stops, it's Uzbekistan. The heat hits like a slap. Even in winter the air is dry and bitter, like the sun's been waiting to peel your skin off. You're herded into barracks again, smaller this time, more temporary. Tents, cots, one open-air latrine for 100 men. They issue you new gear, lighter fatigues, flimsy boots, a scarf they call a shamar. No one tells you how to use it. They say you'll be flying into Kabul within 48 hours. You feel it in your stomach, the slow boiling knot. Until now, war was a word, a threat, a rumour. Now it's a flight away. A sergeant gives you a speech that tries to sound inspiring. Something about patriotism, something about crushing the imperialist threat, something about honour. You don't hear it. You're too busy looking at the man's face. The eyes say something else. They say, don't trust your map, don't trust your boots, don't trust the man next to you unless you've seen him bleed. He finishes the speech with a salute. Nobody salutes back. Then the trucks come. They take you to the airstrip. The noise is deafening. Rotors chopping the air, engines growling like starving dogs. You load up into a cargo plane that looks like it's been held together with rust and tape. There are no seats, just straps on the wall and cargo netting over crates stamped in Cyrillic. The flight crew doesn't look at you, doesn't acknowledge you. You're cargo now. The ramp closes. The hum becomes a roar, and the sky swallows you. You try to sleep. You fail. Instead, you think. About everything. About your mother, her voice in the kitchen. About your younger sister who you never said goodbye to. About that one girl whose name you never had the courage to ask for. And then about nothing. Because thinking too much in the air is dangerous. Thinking in the air means remembering you're falling. When the plane begins to descend, your ears pop. Your fingers go numb. You brace for impact even though no one told you to. The ramp lowers. And the smell hits you. Hot earth. Kerosene, garbage, sweat, gun oil. Welcome to Afghanistan is not the smell that shocks you, it's the colour. Not red, not gold. Just brown. Everything is brown. The mountains, the sand. The sky itself feels burned and bruised. There are no birds, no trees, just hills that rise like jagged teeth and valleys that look like they've never seen water. Your boots hit the tarmac. You're told to move, so you do. Not because you understand, but because you're not ready, and that's exactly why you're here. A corporal guides you toward a tent. You're assigned a cot, a rifle rack, a patrol schedule you can't read yet. You're told to hydrate. You're told not to drink the tap water. They don't tell you about the boy who died last week from it. They don't tell you about the mortar fire 2 nights ago. They don't tell you about the sniper who's already got 12 confirmed kills and a permanent position in the Eastern Hills. They just say, keep your rifle clean. You drop your gear and collapse onto the cot. It's stained. You try not to think about why. You stare at the ceiling and realise something. You thought this would feel different. You thought stepping into a war zone would come with some sound, some weight, some signal in your bones. It doesn't. It's quiet, uneasy, too quiet. And deep down that silence feels like the beginning of something very, very bad. You're not ready. None of you are. But the war doesn't care. It's already started. And now you're in it. There's no welcome committee. No one claps when you step off the plane, no flags waving, no officers shaking hands, just heat and dust. And a silence that feels like it's waiting for something. You scan the airstrip, cracked pavement, rusting fences, guard towers built more for appearances than defence. Men in uniform move with purpose but not urgency, like they've all accepted the rhythm of this place, like they've seen this scene too many times to care. You're told to follow the signs to your assigned outpost. There are no signs. Just chalk scrawled on plywood and arrows drawn in fading spray paint. You find the motor pool, more by accident than direction. The truck waiting for you looks like it was pulled from a junkyard and slapped with a star. You climb in. The bench creaks. The cab stinks like sweat and gun oil. The driver doesn't say a word. He just spits, revs the engine, and pulls onto a dirt path that shouldn't be called a road. The city fades behind you. Kabul isn't what you expected. No skyscrapers, no crowds, just low buildings with holes in the walls, windows covered in blankets, streets cracked open like scars. You see kids kicking a plastic bottle, A man dragging a broken cart with one wheel. Women vanish into doorways at the sound of the truck. The driver makes a sharp turn without warning. You nearly slam into the side panel. He doesn't apologise, just mutters, "IED last week. Can't go straight through anymore." You nod, even though you don't understand. The road turns to gravel, then to dirt, then to something worse. Pitted, jagged rock that threatens to break the truck apart. The driver kills the engine at a cluster of sand-coloured buildings surrounded by a half-built wall. Your new home, FOB 117. You hop out, boots crunching on stone. The sun punches down like it's trying to end you personally. A man with no insignia greets you. His sleeves are rolled up. His rifle slung casually across his back like a shovel. He gives you one look. "You're the new guy?" You nod. He doesn't return it. Grab a bunk. Don't pick the one near the latrine. It floods when it rains. If it rains. That's it. That's your briefing. You find a tent. 6 bunks, only 2 with gear on them. You pick the third one down, throw your duffel under it, sit. The canvas above you sways in the wind. You breathe in, regret it. Smells like mould and diesel. Your mouth goes dry. You unpack slowly. Helmet, canteen, a pair of socks already stiff with dried sweat. You slide your rifle out of its wrap. It feels heavier than it did before. You keep glancing at the flap of the tent, waiting. Not for orders, not for action, for something to make this place make sense. But nothing comes. Later, a corporal walks in, tosses you a laminated sheet. Patrol rotation. You're on the list. Tomorrow, 0600. Meet at the motor pool, he says, and don't forget water. You flip the sheet over. The back's blank. You don't recognise any of the place names on it. You want to ask, what's the mission? You want to ask, who's the enemy? You want to ask, what the hell are we even doing here? But you don't, because no one else is asking either. Dinner is rice and something pretending to be beef. You eat fast, not because you're hungry, because it's the only time everyone's in one place. You listen, not to the words, but to what's missing. No one talks about the war, not really. They talk about boots, about how bad the water tastes, about how a guy in another unit saw a camel explode because someone strapped a mine to it. That last one makes someone laugh. You don't. You go outside instead. The sun is dropping behind the mountains. The sky burns orange. It should be beautiful. But it isn't. It just feels like the light is running away from something it doesn't want to see. You hear a crack in the distance. Not close, not loud, just sharp enough to make your shoulders flinch. Nobody else reacts. You stand still for a long time, staring at the hills, waiting for something to move. Nothing does. Later, in your bunk, you try to sleep. You wrap your arms around your rifle like it might keep you safe. It won't. The tent flap rustles, the wind whispers, and the thought comes uninvited, unshakable. You don't understand where you are. You don't understand who you're fighting, or why, or how, or if any of this matters. You're not trained for this. Not for here. Not for them. Not for this kind of war. And yet, you're in it now. No turning back. They don't wear uniforms. They don't march in rows. They don't carry radios or maps or flags. And you never hear them coming. The Mujahideen aren't soldiers. They're shadows. They're ghosts. They live in the cliffs, the caves, the ridgelines that look empty until they start shooting. You're warned about them in a half-hearted briefing the night before your first patrol. They're not trained, someone says. They're not organised. They're not real fighters. Right. Tell that to the 7 guys who didn't come back last week. You wake up before the sun. Boots on before your eyes are fully open. Your hands wrap around your rifle out of instinct, not preparation. The air is sharp, dry, quiet, too quiet. Your squad leader, a guy named Alexei with eyes like steel ball bearings, points to the west gate. We're going to sweep a valley. Locals reported movement. You nod, like you understand what that means. You don't. You pile into the truck. No seatbelts. Just rust, rattling and knees knocking against rifles. Nobody talks. There's a rhythm to the silence now. It fills the gaps between diesel grunts and coughing fits. No one wastes energy on words. You dismount at a dry creek bed. The mountains rise around you like jagged promises. You fan out 5 meters between each man, eyes on the rocks, finger on the trigger. The sun is rising behind you, and you already hate how bright it is. Too much light makes you visible. Too much visibility makes you dead. You hear it before you see it. A click. Not loud, not sharp, just mechanical, familiar. Snare wire, trip line. You freeze, motionless. You signal. Alexei waves you back. The youngest guy in the group doesn't move fast enough. He catches it with his boot. The explosion isn't big, not like movies. It's short, angry, localized. It takes his foot, shreds it into red ribbons. He screams once, then chokes on it. The corpsman runs forward, wraps a tourniquet so tight it turns the leg blue. Pressure, he barks. Stop the bleeding. You kneel beside them, rifle still raised, eyes scanning the ridge. Then you see one, far off. Half a silhouette, cloak billowing. Gone. A single shot rings out. It misses. Or maybe it wasn't meant to hit. Maybe it was just a message. We see you. You evac the kid. Drag him back through the dirt. He's sobbing, or praying. You can't tell which. The truck's out of range, so you form a perimeter. Wait for pickup. The dust settles, but your nerves don't. Alexei mutters something about ghosts. Don't try to chase them, he says. They know every rock out here, every shadow. He spits. By the time you see them, they've already counted how many magazines you have. Back at the base, the medics work in silence. You don't ask if the kid will make it. You already know. You sit under an awning with your rifle across your knees and watch the mountains. Not one sign of movement. But that's what makes it worse. Because you know they're out there, and they're watching you. Later that week you go on another patrol. This one's further east. Closer to the passes they call mur, routes the invisible highways carved into rock by centuries of movement, trade and war. You enter a village, not marked on the map. Just clay huts and dry wells and eyes peeking out from behind curtains. No one speaks Russian. No one admits to anything. Everyone looks like they've just buried something. You notice the women are gone. That's never good. You walk the perimeter. Check the rooftops. Nothing. Then one of your squad mates steps on something soft in the sand. It's a prayer mat, folded neatly, freshly used. Too fresh. Back, someone yells. Too late. The mortar shell lands 50 meters out, shakes the ground like it's trying to flip the world over. You drop. Dust in your mouth, blood in your ears, screams behind you. You raise your rifle. Still no targets. Still no enemy. Just more ghosts. Alexei fires 3 rounds at a hillside. No return fire. That's the trick with the Mujahideen. They don't stay. They shoot, then vanish. Shoot, vanish. Like the wind. Like they were never there. That night the outpost is on alert. Trip flares are wired. Rifles stacked near every doorway. Everyone sleeps with boots on. The officer paces. Not because he expects an attack. Because he doesn't know what else to do. You lie awake, eyes on the canvas ceiling, listening to the wind scrape across the rocks. You think about the man on the ridge. You think about the mat in the sand. You think about how they know this land, and how you don't. And it hits you. This isn't a war of armies. It's a war of ghosts. And the ghosts don't play by your rules. You look up. Always up. Because the enemy lives in the hills, in the spines of the mountains, in places your maps call elevation, but the locals call home. Every step you take is under a gaze you can't see, and that changes you. At first you walk upright, confident, straight-backed, like you've still got training film reels rolling in your head. After 2 weeks in these valleys you hunch. You learn to walk like prey, because here the high ground isn't a tactic, it's a religion. The Mujahideen don't hold the hills, they are the hills. They grew up here, bled here, buried their fathers and sons in the dirt under your boots. You're a tourist with a rifle, and tourists get shot first. Today is a convoy run, supplies, fuel, ammo. You ride shotgun in the second truck. Your rifle rests across your knees, finger just outside the trigger guard, eyes flicking between the ridgelines like a scared dog waiting for thunder. A sergeant sits beside you, quiet, missing 2 fingers from the last time they drove this route. They're up there, he says. They're always up there. You believe him, because it's not paranoia anymore if it keeps happening. The road bends through a valley, steep cliffs on either side. Narrow, no cover, it's a textbook kill zone. Everyone knows it. But there's no other road. You enter it like a coffin. The sun burns down, the dust curls up. The engines growl and rattle like wounded beasts. Then silence. Not actual silence. Just that awful, tight-lunged quiet when the world holds its breath. And then, crack. A shot, then another. Higher, faster, angled. You don't see muzzle flashes. You don't see movement. Just sparks on metal and a scream from the rear truck. The driver's hit. The truck swerves, flips. Smoke pours out of it before it even stops rolling. Out! Out! You jump, boots skidding on gravel. You duck behind a rock barely wide enough to cover your spine. Bullets stitch the air like angry bees. You fire once at nothing, just to feel like you're doing something. It doesn't help. Radio traffic is chaos, static, curses, coordinates you don't understand. Someone yells for suppressing fire. Someone else just screams. You see one of them just for a second. Top of the ridge, robe, rifle, then gone. You fire again, too late. You hear the rounds hit stone 20 metres above where he was. Your sergeant hurls a grenade toward the slope. It vanishes into the sky. Nothing. Too far, too late, too slow. You realise this whole firefight is asymmetry in motion. You're playing defence in a game that was rigged before you even arrived. A burst of PKM fire rips across the windshield of your truck. Glass turns to dust. Your driver slumps. Gone. You're still firing. At what, you don't know. Eventually, the mortar team behind you launches 3 shells. They arc, boom, boom, boom. The echoes are louder than the blasts. And then, just like that, it stops. No shout, no retreat, no victory. Just wind. And the distant cry of a bird as if nothing happened. You reload with shaking hands. Your fingers don't work right. You curse them. Curse this place. Curse whoever built this road under a firing gallery and thought it was a good idea. You walk up to the flipped truck. It's on fire now. The driver's inside, half out the door. His boots are gone. His face you don't look. You help drag the crates out before the fire reaches the ammo. Your squad is down 3 men. Another 4 wounded. You patch what you can. A leg, a neck, a hand that may never close again. You radio for evac. They say 2 hours. You laugh. You can't help it. You're stuck in the open, surrounded by ghosts on cliffs, and command says 2 hours. You dig in, set a perimeter, and for the next 120 minutes you stare at the hills. Eyes twitching, fingers numb, waiting for round 2. It never comes. They got what they wanted. Blood, fear, a reminder that up here you don't own anything. Not the road, not the ground, not your life. They have the high ground, and they've had it forever. You lie still, back flat against a thin mat, rifle across your chest, boots still on. Your eyelids are closed, but you're not sleeping. You're listening to the wind, to the creaking of the canvas overhead, to the occasional cough from another bunk, dry, sharp, too loud in the stillness. You're waiting, because sleep is a luxury, and out here, luxuries get you killed. The sergeant called it light rest. Close your eyes, he said, but keep one ear open. He didn't think it would be so easy to follow that order, because every sound has weight now, every whisper of sand on metal, every boot scrape near the door, every static pop from the radio. You catalogue it all. The tent flap shifts. Just wind, probably, but still your hand grips the rifle a little tighter. You try to breathe slowly, quietly, but your chest is tight. Your ribs don't want to expand, not here. Somewhere in the dark a dog barks, then yelps, then silence. That kind of silence means one thing: movement. You sit up, not fast, no sudden movements. Your heart's already pounding too loud to risk anything else. You peek outside. Nothing, just black sky and the skeletal outlines of HESCO barriers in moonlight. Still, something's off. You feel it more than hear it. A shift in the air, a change in pressure, like the desert's holding its breath. You turn back in, rest your rifle across your lap. A voice whispers from the next bunk. You feel that. You nod, even though he can't see you. Then you both wait. Eyes open now. Rifles ready. Calls it fear. Not out loud. But it's there. You smell it in your sweat. Feel it in the knots behind your eyes. The guy on the other side of the tent mutters something in his sleep. Something about his brother. Then nothing. You envy him, but not too much. He'll wake up soon enough. Back into the rhythm, back into the fear. Dawn doesn't arrive all at once. First, it's the cold. Colder than you'd expect from a desert. The kind of cold that bites at the seams of your uniform and settles under your skin. Then, light. Pale, weak. Not relief, just visibility. The shadows stretch longer now, and that's the worst part. Because every shadow looks like a silhouette. You scan the ridgeline. Still nothing. But that doesn't mean safe. It means reset. You step outside. Your breath clouds. Your fingers numb. Your boots crackle over sand that feels too loud beneath you. The lieutenant is already up, squinting through binoculars toward a range that stretches out like the edge of the world. We're moving out again, he says, just like that. No debrief, no update. Like last night never happened. Like you didn't spend 6 hours counting imaginary footsteps in the dark. You don't respond. You just nod. It's safer. You head to the makeshift mess. Powdered eggs, stale bread, coffee so thick it's basically punishment in liquid form. You chew like it's a chore. Because it is. Across the table, someone lights a cigarette with hands that won't stop shaking. You pretend not to see it. Pretend you're not doing the same thing just on the inside. Later, you clean your weapon. Not because it's dirty. Because it's something to do. A ritual. a meditation, a way to keep your mind from unravelling thread by thread. You disassemble, wipe the parts, reassemble, function check, repeat. A guy once told you he cleans his rifle 3 times a day. Not because he needs to, because it's the only thing he can control. You're starting to understand. Outside, the bass stirs. Boots on gravel, radios buzzing, engines coughing to life. Another patrol soon. Same valley, same ridgeline, same unknown. You reload your magazines, double-check your water. Stare at the door for a full minute before standing. Because going out there again feels like asking for something. A test, a punishment, a question with no right answer. But you do it anyway. Because no one here sleeps. Not really. You just wait for morning. Then wait for evening. Then repeat. Until something finally breaks. They call it Ambush Alley. Not officially, of course. The map says Sector C12. The Brus calls it Route Grey. But the men who've bled there, they gave it the real name. Ambush Alley. It's a stretch of dirt and rock carved between 2 jagged cliffs. Roughly 900 metres long. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. A road built for trucks that becomes a trap for anyone stupid enough to use it twice. Today, that's you. You sit in the back of the lead truck, tailgate down, rifle across your knees, engine idling like it's nervous too. The lieutenant does a final sweep with his binoculars. He doesn't see anything. That should worry you more than if he saw everything. You glance at the man next to you. He's quiet. His mouth keeps opening and closing like he's chewing on the words he's too scared to say. You don't speak either. Everyone knows. Once you're in the alley, the rules change. The briefing this morning was short. Deliver supplies to Outpost 3, Route Grey. Quick in, quick out, expect resistance. Expect resistance. That's like saying expect gravity, expect air, expect pain. You roll out. The truck bounces over the uneven road. Your spine absorbs every shock. Your hands gripping the rifle so tight your knuckles burn. The cliffs rise up around you like the jaws of a trap that's been waiting for days. You scan every ledge, every crevice, every rock big enough to hide a man or a weapon or something worse. Nothing. That's the problem. Mujahideen don't show up until they want to, and when they do it's too late, halfway in. The radio crackles, then silence. Someone in the rear truck says something garbled. You hear movement, then static. Your driver slows down. Big mistake. Alexei, riding shotgun, hammers the dashboard. Keep going, but it's already too late. First, the sound. A pop, not loud, not sharp, a soft little warning. Then, boom, front left tyre, IED. The truck lifts on one side. You feel the ground vanish under you for half a second, then you hit it again, hard. The axle snaps, the windshield explodes, dust and glass fill your mouth in one breath. You're out before anyone tells you to move. Boots on dirt, rifle up. Eyes scanning high. Shots crack overhead. Too high, suppression fire. They're herding you. You dive behind the wreckage, sucking air, blinking blood and grit from your lashes. Someone yells left ridge, and you fire that way, not because you see anything, but because you have to shoot at something. Then it really starts. RPKs open up from the rocks above. Controlled bursts, accurate, angry. A guy to your right takes one in the neck, drops like his strings got cut. You crawl low and fast, trying to reposition. Alexei's behind a burned-out jeep. He's got the squad LMG and a cigarette still stuck to his lip. He sees you, yells, "Flank right, now!" You obey, even though there's no cover, even though your boots slip on gravel and your lungs burn and you know they're watching you. But no one shoots. Yet. You reach a low outcropping, you press yourself flat, you peek. 2 fighters, up a ledge. Robes flapping in the wind, one with a Dragonov, the other with binoculars. You aim, breathe, squeeze. The rifle bucks, the sniper drops. Second guy dives, disappears. You reload, fast, sloppy. You miss the first try and your fingers are wet. With what, you don't check. Behind you, the gunner on the second truck gets a line on the far ridge. Daka, Daka, Daka. You hear screaming now theirs, yours, someone's. It all blurs. You toss a grenade up towards where the spotter ran. It lands. Boom. You don't know if it hit, you don't check. You just move. Because in Ambush Alley, the only way out is through. 20 minutes later, it's over. Not quiet, just less noise. The ridge is empty again. The mudge gone. No bodies. Just blood trails, footprints and echoes. You count your men. 2 dead, 5 wounded, 1 unconscious. And 1 truck that's never going to move again. The lieutenant tries to call in support. Static. Alexei spits in the dirt and mutters, "Figures." You dig in. Form a perimeter. Wait for dusk. Because no one sends evac in daylight here. That's how you learn the second rule of Ambush Alley. You don't win. You survive. If you're lucky. And luck doesn't last. You don't know why you start writing it. Maybe it's boredom. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's the way Alexei keeps staring at the photo tucked into his helmet band, the one with 2 kids, and a woman smiling into a summer that no longer exists. You find a stub of pencil in the bottom of your pack. The tip is blunt. The eraser's worn flat. You tear a scrap from the back of an old ration label. It's greasy. Smells like beef paste. You write anyway. "Dear Mama." That's all you get down before stopping. Because what comes next? Everything's fine. It's not. Don't worry. Too late. You haven't spoken to her in weeks. Haven't heard from anyone in longer. The last time mail came through, it was 3 water-damaged envelopes and a postcard from Odessa that didn't belong to anyone in your unit. The Mayorroom Corporal just shrugged. "Names don't matter out here," he said. "You want to tell her the truth. That it's hot. That it's loud. That it's quiet when it shouldn't be and noisy when it's supposed to be calm. You want to say you haven't slept. Not really. That your boots haven't come off in 4 days. That you watched a man's ribcage cave in under a rockfall like it was paper. But you don't write any of that. You just stare at the paper. "Dear Mama." You try again. You write, "The food's not bad." Then cross it out. You write, "Met a few good guys." Crossed out again. Because even the good ones are getting quieter. Thinner. Less like people, more like ghosts in waiting. Alexei passes behind you, glances at the scrap in your hand. "You writing home?" You nod. He doesn't smile, just sits, lights a cigarette with hands that tremble slightly when he exhales. "I used to write, before I figured out they don't send them." You blink. "What?" "Command screens them. If you say too much, they don't go through. If you say too little, they get lost." "I sent 12 before I stopped. Never heard back." You fold the paper. Not finished. Not even close. You tuck it into your chest pocket next to your ID tag. You think about burning it, but something stops you. Later that night, you go on watch. It's your turn. 2 hours by the gate. You sit on a pile of sandbags with a blanket over your shoulders and your rifle across your knees. The stars are too bright. The moon hangs like a spotlight. The kind of night that's too still to be trusted. You look out over the wire. The valley stretches away silent, barren, unblinking. You think about her, your mother. Not how she is now, but how she was. A dish towel over her shoulder, knees in the garden, that way she hummed without realizing it. You wonder if she'd even recognise you now. Your hands are cracked and blackened from grease and carbon. Your voice is hoarse from smoke and shouting. You barely recognise yourself. A shadow moves at the edge of your vision. You spin, rifle up. Just a goat. Your heart pounds anyway. You lower the weapon, take a shaky breath. The wind shifts. Carries with it the scent of something burnt rubber, maybe, or hair. You don't want to know. The next morning a convoy doesn't return. 6 men, no radio, no survivors. You help clean their bunks, standard protocol. Fold the blankets, bag the gear, burn the letters. That's what hits hardest. The letters. Some of them half finished. One with a drawing of a house, little boy in the front yard, a dog. You don't ask who it belonged to. Doesn't matter. You grab your own letter that night. Unfold it. Dear Mama. Still nothing after that. You pick up the pencil again. Write one more line. I'm sorry. Then fold it up and press it flat beneath your pack. You won't finish it. You can't. Not until you know there's something worth saying. And here? There isn't. Not yet. You learn not to trust the earth. Not the sand. Not the gravel. Not the dirt that looks still until it swallows someone. Because here the ground isn't neutral. It's not a surface. It's a threat. You learn that when Stepan disappears. 1 second he's walking ahead of you on patrol. Same route you've taken 3 times before. Same path. Same rocks. Same stupid sun in your eyes. Then he's gone. No explosion. No scream. Just a sudden vertical drop and a puff of dust like the desert coughed. You rush forward. There's a hole, a shaft, a mine, a tunnel, maybe all 3. 10 meters straight down. Black. Quiet. You call his name. Nothing. You call again. Louder. Desperate. Still nothing. Just the echo of your own voice like the mountains laughing. You lower a rope. It never goes taut. You hear movement down there. Faint. Wet. You want to believe it's him, but it isn't. Later the engineers say it was an old mudge tunnel, probably built during the last decade, maybe even with Soviet concrete. Your concrete. Your country's money. Now turned into a trap for your own boots. The irony isn't funny. But someone laughs anyway. You don't remember who. You just remember how it sounded, dry, hollow, like coughing in a grave. After that, every step is a negotiation. You test the ground with your heel, tap with your barrel. Watch the rocks for signs of disturbance, for seams, for new patches of sand that weren't there yesterday. You walk like the ground might bite you. Because it might. Mines are one thing. You can look for tripwires. You can memorize the danger zones. You can avoid the paths the sheep won't cross. But the holes, the soft ones, the old tunnels, the crumbling graves of forgotten insurgents, those don't warn you. They just open, and you fall. One night you're tasked with recovery. They found a boot. That's all. Just a boot. Stuck upright in a patch of dirt like someone tried to step into another dimension and got caught halfway. Alexei volunteers. You follow. The coordinates take you 2 kilometers past the ridge. Too far, too exposed. You go anyway. The boot's still there. It's Stepan's. You recognize the laces. He tied them with a loop around the top like a climbing harness. Said it made them easier to take off. He was wrong. They're still on. You start digging. Slow, careful. You peel back layers of dirt like skin. You hit fabric, then something else. Bone? Maybe. But then the dirt shifts. The ground settles under you like breath. Alexei yells. You fall back. The edge collapses. A foot of soil drops away into another cavity. You see movement. Not a man. A rat. Big. grey, its belly smeared red. It scurries off. You don't dig anymore. You mark the location, burn a flare, radio it in. HQ says leave it. Too unstable. You return to base with nothing. No body. No tags. Just the boot. You drop it in a burn barrel without a word. No one speaks that night. No one eats. The next morning someone lays rocks where the boot was found. 4 stones, 1 for each limb. It's the only grave Stepan will get. A breeze kicks dust over it before you finish watching. Already forgotten, already gone. You try not to look at the ground as you walk away, but you feel it looking back. That's how it is out here. The ground eats people, and it doesn't spit them back out. It happens fast. That's what makes it worse. No warning, no build-up. Just one mistake, 1 second, 1 trigger pull, and a man you know is dead. They say it happens in every war, that it's inevitable, that the fog of battle makes these things understandable. But when it's your bullet, your squad, your side, nothing about it feels understandable. It feels like betrayal. It starts on a patrol outside Ghazni. 5 men, 1 interpreter, a guide named Rafik. Rafik's young, smiles too much, talks even more, always points out birds, rock formations, old landmarks. He's lived here all his life. Probably knew this terrain before he could spell his own name. You've worked with him 3 times. He's solid. Today's route is quiet. Too quiet. The village is half abandoned, doors open, cooking pots cold, no livestock. Alexei notices first. No kids, he says. Never a good sign. Everyone fans out, eyes sharp. Rafik walks a few meters ahead, his hands high to show he's clean. Then there's a rustle behind a low wall. Quick, sharp. Alexei swings around. You hear the safety flick off, finger curling, muscle memory kicking in. Don't, you yell. But the shot's already fired. Rafik drops, mid-sentence, no scream, just down. Alexei freezes, rifle still raised. His face doesn't change, not at first. Then he says, I thought... But he doesn't finish. You all run to Rafik. He's hit in the chest. High. Too high. You apply pressure anyway. He's still breathing barely. Eyes wide with betrayal and confusion and pain that words can't carry. The interpreter kneels beside him, says something in Pashto, soft, fast, desperate. Rafik tries to speak. Blood bubbles from his lips. Then he stops. The valley is quiet again. Too quiet. You stand, hands sticky with someone you were supposed to protect. Alexei still hasn't moved. You want to scream at him. You want to punch him. You want to go back in time and stop it from happening. But you don't do any of that. Because war doesn't give you take-backs, just body bags. The paperwork takes hours. HQ wants statements. Chain of command wants confirmation. The interpreter won't speak to anyone, just sits rocking back and forth, mumbling Rafik's name. They call it a misidentification. They call it a tragedy. They call it regrettable. You call it what it is. Murder by mistake. Rafik gets a burial the next day. Not by you, by locals. Men who spit in the dirt when your unit passes by. You don't blame them. You do the same. Alexei doesn't talk much after that. Just goes quiet. He sharpens his bayonet for hours, like the metal owes him something. Like if he makes it sharp enough, maybe it'll cut through what happened. It won't. You avoid him for a while. Not because you're afraid of him, because you're afraid of what he reminds you of. That this war doesn't just kill enemies, it kills trust. It kills the space between allies. It kills everything good and clear and simple. And it replaces it with silence. A week later, you're clearing a building in another town. Small, Cracked walls, mud floors. You breach a room, see a figure wearing a scarf, holding something. You raise your rifle just for a second. It's a woman. She's holding a baby. You freeze. You don't shoot. Your heart's pounding so hard you can barely hear. She backs away, doesn't speak, just vanishes into a doorway. You lower your weapon. Alexei appears beside you, says nothing. But for the first time since Rafik, you see something in his eyes again. Regret, or maybe just the ghost of it. Friendly fire isn't friendly. It's not clean, it's not quick. And it doesn't end with the body. It follows you. In your boots. In your rifle. In your hands. Even after they've stopped bleeding. Afghanistan isn't just a battlefield. It's a climate trap. It doesn't want you dead all at once. It wants you slow, dry, cracked open like a blistered boot left in the sun. You start the morning freezing. That kind of desert cold that creeps in through your collar, crawls down your spine and settles in your bones. Your breath fogs. Your fingers don't want to move. Your rifle feels like metal pulled straight from an icebox. You can't feel your toes. Then, by noon, it flips. The heat comes down like punishment. Not warm, not hot, violent. Like the sun is pressing its entire weight onto your shoulders, daring you to stay standing. You're on patrol, again. 9 kilometers up a switchback trail carved into a mountain with no name. Rock on one side, cliff on the other, dust in your mouth, sweat down your spine. Alexei mutters, "Keep moving." But everyone's heads are down now. You're not marching. You're melting. Your canteen's half empty by 1100. By 1200 it's gone. The medic checks his watch and says, "We've hit 38 degrees. Someone jokes that it's a dry heat. No one laughs. Your throat is sandpaper. Your lips split. You try not to lick them. That only makes it worse. You know the signs. You've been briefed. Dizzy. Sweaty. They're not sweaty. That's the real danger, when your body gives up trying. You feel your vision tunnel. Not fast, just enough to make the edges grey. You tap your buddy on the arm. He nods, doesn't stop walking. That's how it works. You don't stop unless you fall. Someone does. The guy 2 spots ahead drops like a puppet cut loose. Face first into the dust. No shout, no warning. You rush over. He's burning. His skin feels like an engine block. You roll him over, eyes rolled back. Mouth open, no sound. The medic dumps what little water he has onto the guy's chest. It sizzles in the sun. They strip his gear, fan him with a rag. Someone sets up shade with a tarp. But there's no shade on this trail. Not really. The lieutenant calls for evac. They say 1 hour. He curses. You've got 30 minutes. You pour a capful of water into your mouth, swish it around, spit it out. It's warm. Tastes like rust. Still better than nothing. You sit next to the downed soldier. Watch his chest rise and fall in tiny broken gasps. That's when the clouds roll in. Fast, heavy, no warning. By the time the chopper arrives, the sun is gone and the wind is picking up. You climb higher, still on mission. By 1700 it's dropped 10 degrees. By 1800 the wind is cutting through your uniform like it knows your name. At 1900 it rains. Cold, hard, needle-like drops that hit like buckshot and do nothing to help the dust baked into your skin. No shelter, no ponchos, just your soaked fatigues and a body temperature that starts to drop faster than you can walk. Alexei curses in 3 languages. You think about fire. You think about your bed back home. You think about being dry. But the mountain doesn't care. Now you're shivering, joints stiff, fingers clumsy. You struggle to chamber your weapon during a routine check. The bolt feels like it's welded shut. You breathe into your hands, it doesn't help. Someone suggests building a fire. The sergeant laughs. Sure, you want to tell the Midge where we're camped too? So you don't. You sit, you shake. You huddle into yourself like a dying animal trying to fake sleep. And you realise the truth. It's not just bullets out here. The heat will break you. The cold will finish you. And they'll take turns until one of them wins. Tomorrow will be the same. Frozen before dawn, baking before lunch, soaked by sundown. You think about what it does to the mind, this whiplash, this constant betrayal by the sky, and you start to get it. Why the old guys don't talk much, why some of them go quiet for hours, why nobody believes the forecasts anymore. Out here, the weather is just another enemy, one you can't shoot, one you can't outrun, one that doesn't care if you're on patrol, on edge, or out of time. And right now, it's winning. They don't tell you when you're in one. You find out the hard way. Step by step. Heartbeat by heartbeat. You're on foot. Dust trail behind you. Sun overhead. The kind of heat that bakes through your boots and makes your socks feel like wet paper. It's supposed to be a simple sweep. Checkpoint to outpost. No enemy sightings. No intel chatter. Just a long, dumb walk. Then someone stops, raises a hand. You freeze. There's a look that passes through the squad. That quiet kind of recognition. Like everyone suddenly remembers they left the stove on back home, except it's not a stove. It's the earth itself. You glance down, see nothing. But that's the problem. Minds don't stand out, they blend in, they wait. You scan the dirt, you see a faint pattern, half-circle indentation, barely wider than your boot heel. Could be a rock, could be a mine, could be the last thing you ever see. Alexei whispers, "Nobody move." Your squad spreads out, inches, breathing shallow, eyes on the ground like it's glass. The new guy, Sokolov, he shifts his weight, just a little. His boot sinks half an inch. Everyone freezes again. No explosion. Not this time. But now the fear is real. Realer than any ambush. Realer than any sniper scope. Because this is death beneath you. No warning, no sound, no enemy to fire at. Just pressure. Just timing. Just luck. The point man radios command. They send the engineers. ETA. 1 hour. You stand exactly where you are. Don't kneel, don't sit, don't scratch that itch on your neck. You don't trust the dirt anymore. You think about what's under your boot. Plastic disc, 5 inches wide, filled with metal and promise. It won't take your head. It'll take your legs. Knees down, gone. Shrapnel in your gut. Maybe you'll bleed out. Maybe you'll survive. If you're lucky, you'll pass out before you hear yourself scream. If not, well, that's when the tourniquets come out. You glance at Alexei. He doesn't look back. He's got his eyes shut, lips moving. Maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. You feel sweat crawling down your ribs. Your rifle strap cuts into your neck. You don't adjust it. You don't move at all. Every muscle tight. Every second louder than the last. Because it's not the mine that kills you. It's the waiting. When the engineers arrive, they start with a metal detector and a stick. A stick. Poking at the ground like they're hunting for snakes. They find one. Then another. Then a third right next to where Sokolov is standing. He starts crying. Doesn't even try to hide it. No one says a word. The lead tech signals for extraction. It takes 3 hours to clear a path out. 3 hours of standing still. 3 hours of looking down and thinking, what if this is it? 3 hours of hating the ground. When they finally lead you out, you walk single file. 1 step. Wait. Next step. Repeat. You make it. All of you. But something stays behind. The trust. The ease. The illusion of solid footing. You reach the outpost and sit in silence. No jokes, no stories, no complaints. Sokolov vomits behind the latrine. You hear him whisper, "It was right there," over and over. And you know what he means, because you felt it too. Now, every patch of dirt looks dangerous. Every step carries weight. You walk differently, slower, lighter. Like a man trying not to wake a sleeping god. And you realise something simple and awful. You're not afraid of dying. You're afraid of surviving wrong, bleeding out on a dusty trail, begging for morphine that's already been used up, screaming into the sky while your legs sit 10 feet behind you. That's the mind's true power, not the bang, the silence before it, the maybe, the waiting. It starts with the wind, hot, sharp, different. You don't notice at first. Not really. You're used to the smell of sweat and dust and diesel. Used to the sting of metal in the air or the dryness that coats your tongue like sandpaper. But this is wrong. It hits you while you're loading crates. Fuel, rations, ammo, all the usual lifelines stacked in green metal boxes. You pause, sniff, narrow your eyes. Something's burning. Alexei notices too. He steps out from under the awning, lifts his chin and scans the horizon. Then you hear it. Not a boom, not a crack. A roar. Low at first. Rising, rolling, like the earth itself is exhaling flame. You run. Out to the gate. Up the watchtower. You borrow the binoculars. And you see it. A pillar of smoke. Wide, climbing fast, angry. The sky turns a dirty orange and the air tastes like charcoal and melted plastic. Somewhere out there, the world is on fire. The call comes over the radio. Convoy hit, fuel truck caught. They need help. Now. You're on the truck in 2 minutes, helmet buckled, rifle across your lap, no questions, just movement. The road curves along a ridge. As you get closer, the air thickens. Your eyes start to water. You cough without meaning to. Then you see it. The convoy's gone to hell. 1 truck flipped, 1 burning. A fuel tanker is split open on its side, leaking black ribbons into the dirt. And the fire. God, the fire is everywhere. Flames reach twice your height, dancing along the ground like they're alive. Ammo's cooking off inside one of the crates. You hear the pops, snap, crack, bang, like popcorn soaked in violence. There are bodies, some moving, some not. You jump down and run for the nearest one, a driver, half out of his cab, skin red and blistering. He's screaming something in Russian, words slurred by smoke and panic. You grab him under the arms, drag, feet slipping, the heat on your neck like a slap. Another explosion behind you knocks the air from your lungs. You hit the ground, feel the impact in your teeth. The man you were carrying goes still. Too still. You roll over. His face is gone. Just gone. You want to throw up, but you can't afford the seconds. The fire is moving. That's what people don't understand. Out here, fire doesn't stay in one place. It chases. It hunts. The wind shifts and suddenly it's at your back. You sprint. The air warps in front of you. Plastic melts, tyres burst. Somewhere a man is still shouting. Still burning. The medics are doing what they can, but there's no water, no real cover. Just screams and smoke and the awful sound of boots on bubbling tar. Alexei grabs your shoulder, yells something, points to the crate of RPG rounds. It's close to the flames. Too close. You both sprint. No time to think, no time to plan. Just reach it. Grab one end, drag it away from the fire. 10 meters, 15. It blows 30 seconds later. A shockwave throws you both to the dirt, ears ringing, vision spotty, but you're alive. You sit up, the fire's still burning. But now it's not just fire. Its body's on fire. A man runs by, covered head to toe in flame, and for 1 second you think he's wearing a glowing uniform. Then he collapses. Silent. Like a light bulb turning off. You'll smell it for days. Burned rubber. Burned fuel. Burned flesh. You'll never forget that last one. You try not to breathe through your nose. It doesn't help. Hours later it's over. Not because the fire's out, but because there's nothing left to burn. The trucks are slag. The ammo's gone. The ground is scorched black. You lost 3 men. 1 more will lose both hands. And for what? A supply run. A route they said was safe. You sit in the dirt, skin blistered, uniform stained, boots half melted. And all you can think about is that smell. Because it reached you before anything else. Before the smoke. Before the flames. Before the screams. The fire was coming. And you didn't even see it. There's a mirror in the latrine. It's cracked, mounted crooked above a metal sink that leaks from the base and smells like rust. The first few weeks, you looked in it. You shaved in it, wiped the steam off with the back of your hand and stared at your own face like it's still yours. Not anymore. Now you don't look. You splash water on your face without raising your eyes. You tie your boots with your head down. You pass that mirror like it's a grave you don't want to visit. Because what's staring back isn't you. Not really. The skin is thinner. The eyes, something's gone in them. Not dead, just distant. Like they've started focusing on things behind your shoulder, even when nothing's there. Your lips don't smile on their own anymore. Your jaw is tighter, like your face forgot how to relax. You notice the little things first. The permanent smudge of grime at your temples. The black semicircles under your eyes that don't go away, even after the rare night of sleep. The new scar under your chin from the explosion last month. You could shave more often, but you don't. The stubble feels like armour now, something between your skin and the world. Alexei doesn't use the mirror either. You watch him one morning. He shaves with a blade held up to a tin cup. Never glances up, like he already knows what he'd see, and he's not ready to confront it. None of you are. It's not vanity. It's protection. Because every time you look, you see less of who you were, and more of what this place made you. A survivor, a ghost, a machine with a weapon and an expiration date. One night, someone draws a face in the dust on the mirror, 2 eyes, and a crooked smile. It's stupid, childish. But it stays there for a week, no one wipes it off. Some guys start calling it the 6th man, joking that it watches over them while they piss. But one night, you catch a guy talking to it. Just a whisper. Apologising. You don't ask for what. You don't want to know. There's a photo in your chest pocket from home. You haven't looked at it in days, maybe weeks. You unfold it one night under your bunk light. She's smiling in it, holding a drink, wearing that red scarf she thought made her look Parisian. You try to remember what it felt like to be there with her, to be warm, to be whole. You can't. You fold it back up, tuck it behind your ID tag like a secret. One morning, after a bad night, a raid, a firefight, 2 wounded, you see Sokolov standing at the mirror. Just standing. Not shaving, not cleaning up. Just staring. Eyes locked on his reflection like it might blink first. You walk in. He doesn't turn. You say nothing. He finally says, "Do you ever feel like you're watching someone else live your life?" You don't answer. You leave. He doesn't follow. That mirror stays up the whole time you're deployed. Crooked, cracked, smudged. You never break it, never smash it. That would mean acknowledging it's there. Instead, you ignore it. And that's how you survive. Because the moment you really look at yourself, really see what's left, that's the moment something cracks for good. And out here, cracks get you killed. They say things like, "Must be nice to finally have some peace and quiet." And you nod. Because they're smiling. Because they mean well. Because they'll never understand what quiet really is. Civilians think quiet is a living room with the TV off, a porch swing at night on an empty beach. You think quiet is the 15 seconds after an IED goes off and no one's moved yet. You think quiet is a valley just before the shooting starts, when the birds stop singing and the wind disappears. You think quiet is a man staring at his own leg, not screaming, not talking, just blinking like he hasn't caught up yet. That's what quiet means to you now. You hear it when there's nothing around. And you feel it most when you get home. They take you to a cafe. Everyone's chatting, spoons against mugs, laughter in the back corner, music low and upbeat. And you feel sick. Because it's too much. Because it's not the right kind of noise. Because your body is waiting for something else. Something that used to follow moments like this. Waiting for the crack of a rifle, the slam of a mortar, the scream, the running. The waitress asks if you're okay. You lie. Yes, just tired. You're always tired. Later, someone offers you a weekend trip. Cabin in the woods, total silence, just the trees. And that word again. Quiet. You go. You try. But that first night, lying in the dark, no hum of machines, no trucks outside, no breathing but your own, you feel like the world stopped spinning. Like you've been buried. You lay there waiting for something to happen. Because when it was that quiet in the desert, something always did. So you get up. You sit outside with your back to the cabin wall. You hold your knees. You stare at the tree line. There's no enemy, no danger. Just your mind crawling back through every ambush, every footstep, every time someone said, "We're clear," and you still didn't believe it. You don't sleep. Not that night. You don't like real quiet anymore. You'd rather have the hum of the fridge, the tap of rain on a tin roof, the low buzz of electricity, something, anything. Because when it's really quiet, your body fills in the rest. It hears the echoes. It replays the moments you survived and the ones you weren't supposed to. You go home early from the trip. They ask why. You say, "Had to take care of something." They nod. They don't push. They don't understand. How could they? They've never had to keep breathing while listening to boots crunch toward their position. Never had to lay still while radios went dead and the valley stopped making sound. They've never had to pray for the noise to come back, because silence meant death was thinking it over. You don't explain that. You just smile, say it's fine, but you stop saying you like the quiet, because you don't, not anymore. Your pack only holds so much. Weight regulations, balance. What command calls essential gear. They give you a checklist. Rifle, ammunition, rations, first aid, spare socks. But there's no line for the things that actually stay with you, like the torn photo in your chest pocket, the letter you started but never finished, the string from your little brother's toy he gave you before you left, the piece of shrapnel they pulled from your thigh, still dark with dried blood. None of it's standard issue, but you carry it anyway. Some guys pack lighter. Alexei carries a lighter with a shark scratched into the side. Sokolov's got a chess pawn taped inside his helmet. Says it keeps him thinking. One guy, can't remember his name now, used to carry 3 dog tags. Only one was his. You carry them all, even the ones you didn't mean to. The smells, burnt rubber, diesel, cordite. You wake up to them long after you've left the base. Long after you're home. They don't wash off. Not really. The sounds. Choppers in the distance. Click of a safety off. The high, sharp whistle of something dropping through the air that may or may not land where you're standing. Those stay too. In the way you flinch at fireworks. In how you pause when a car backfires. In the silence after someone says, "I didn't hear anything." The weight isn't always physical. There's the guilt of walking past a crater and realizing someone else was standing there yesterday. Of surviving the mission that killed 3 others. Of firing first. You carry names. Some you remember by heart. Some you try to forget. All of them are in your pack, whether you write them down or not. You carry faces. The boy with the slingshot who stepped on the wrong patch of ground. The fighter who bled out after trying to surrender. The medic who bled out trying to save him. They're in your head like tattoos burned under your skull. You don't speak them out loud. You don't have to. They speak themselves when it gets quiet. You carry habits. Sitting with your back to the wall. Checking exits when you walk into a room. Not sleeping without your boots close. You don't even notice you're doing it anymore. But you are. Every day. And then there's the worst thing you carry. The possibility. The question. What if you had stayed down that day? What if you'd taken that other route? What if you'd said wait just 1 second earlier? You carry that too. It's heavy, but not all at once. It's the kind of weight that builds slowly, grain by grain, until your shoulders are hunched and your back is crooked, and you think it's just how standing feels now. You go through your gear at the end of a rotation, toss out the empty magazines, the worn bandages, the field manual no one read. You think you're lighter, but you're not. Because the things that matter don't go in the pack. They go in you. And you carry them forever. At first, it's the mattress that throws you off. Too soft. Too still. No rustle of canvas. No gravel under your back. No steel frame creaking under another man's weight 2 bunks down. Just silence. And a bed that doesn't move when you shift. You lie there staring at the ceiling, white, unscarred. No flapping tarp, no faint silhouette of a ceiling fan clunking through dry air. Just clean drywall, too clean. You hear the hum of a refrigerator in the kitchen, and for a moment you think it's a generator. Your muscles tense before you realise where you are. Then you relax. Sort of. You keep your boots beside the bed, not on purpose. Just instinct. Your brain says it doesn't matter. Your body disagrees. You still reach for your rifle in the dark. Sometimes it's not there. Sometimes it is. You don't ask yourself why you brought it home. You already know. You sleep light. Like a cat in the open. Like something waiting to bolt. Every creak of the house becomes footsteps. Every gust of wind a mortar scream buried under layers of suburban calm. You dream in flashes, not scenes moments, a red light on a radio, the pop of a flare, a hand reaching out from smoke. You wake up before the ending, always, usually with your fists clenched, sometimes with your jaw locked so tight it hurts to speak the next morning. You lie still and listen, to the wind, to the night, to the nothing. And that's what gets you, the nothing. Because over there you could read silence, measure it, understand what type it was. There was the silence before an ambush, the silence of fear, the silence of death. Here, it's just empty, and you don't know what to do with that. You try sound machines. They don't work. You try pills. They do. But they take something with them. You go a week without sleeping, then you crash for 15 hours, wake up angry, disoriented, swearing you heard something that wasn't there. You don't tell anyone. Not really. You just say you're tired. That's easier. Eventually you develop a routine. One light on in the hallway, blinds half closed. A kitchen knife on the nightstand. Your boots facing the door. You still sleep with one leg half out of the blanket. Still twitch when a car backfires. Still keep a glass of water within arm's reach, like hydration might fix what the war broke. People say things like, "You're safe now." You nod, smile, but you don't believe them. Because safety is a theory, and trust is something you ran out of a long time ago. You'll never sleep the way you used to. Not the kind where your body truly rests. Not the kind where you wake up without bracing for bad news. That kind of sleep, that stayed back there, with the gear you burned, with the letters you didn't send, with the version of yourself that didn't make it home. Now, you sleep like a soldier without a war, half awake, half waiting, because somewhere deep down your mind still thinks there's something coming. And one night maybe it's right. It's not taught. Not really. You just pick it up one step at a time. How to move without being heard. How to glide instead of stomp. How to feel the earth through your soles like it might whisper back. You start with gravel. Learn which stones shift and which ones stay. Where the crunch comes from. Where the sound hides. Then dirt. Pack just right. It's quiet. Too dry and it slides. Too soft and you leave tracks that scream where you've been. You learn to read floors. How old wood gives you away. Which tiles creak. Which patches of ground hold a breath and then betray you the moment you commit your full weight. You learn to see it before it happens. A twig at the wrong angle. A puddle reflecting sky. A can half buried waiting to clink against your heel and undo everything. Your squad starts calling you Ghost, because sometimes you're just there. Not loud, not sudden, just present. That's how you survive. You hear the enemy before they hear you. Their boots, their coughing, their radios turn too loud. You use it. You slip behind cover. You signal silently. You place your foot with intention. Step. Pause. Step. Wait. Step. Breathe. Every part of your body listens. Even your skin. Especially your skin. Because the war teaches you that the loud man dies first. The careless man trips the wire. The fast man misses what matters. So you go slow. You go soft. You go quiet, and it becomes you. When you come home, you keep doing it. You move through your apartment without sound. You don't slam doors. You don't stomp on stairs. Your neighbours never hear you come or go. It makes people nervous. Some ask if you're sneaking around. You say, "No, just habit." They laugh. You don't. Your partner, if you have one, learns not to sneak up on you. Not because you're dangerous, because you react. Sharp, sudden, instinct first. You've grabbed wrists before you knew what they were attached to. Apologised after. Said it's nothing. It's not nothing. You still step lightly in grocery stores. Still map out exits in your head. Still feel the floor before you trust it. You can tell when someone's behind you by the way the air shifts. You feel it. Pressure on your neck. Like being watched. Because you've been watched. And you remember how it ends. You walk without sound now. Not just because of the war. Because of what it taught you. That silence is a weapon. A shield. A promise. You don't need to announce yourself. You're already there, listening, waiting, moving like smoke. And part of you knows it's not just about staying quiet. It's about control. About being the only thing in the chaos that isn't clumsy, isn't loud, isn't seen until it wants to be. You used to walk like a man. Now you walk like a memory, and no one hears you coming. At first it's just an inconvenience. You skip a meal, then another. Rations are late, convoy delayed, some supply officer forgot how mountains work. You joke about it. Say you're intermittent fasting. Say you could use the weight loss. Everyone laughs, but by day 3 nobody's laughing anymore. Your stomach turns in on itself, a hollow ache. Not sharp, not urgent, just ever-present. A quiet reminder that your body needs something you don't have. You chew slower. You guard your crackers like gold. You ration your bites, turn every spoon of soup into a strategy. You start thinking about food in strange ways. Not what you want, but what you remember. A boiled egg, a crust of bread, a greasy shawarma from some kiosk back home. You'd trade a magazine of ammo for a single orange. You dream about apples. Not even eating them, just holding one. Cold, heavy, real. The heat makes it worse. You sweat out more than you take in. Salt stains your collar. Your tongue feels thick and dry. You tell yourself it's fine, that your body will adjust. It doesn't. Hunger slows you down. Your legs drag. Your focus slips. You miss things. You almost step on a pressure plate. Someone yells. You freeze. They pull you back. You nod, say thanks, but all you're thinking is how you almost died because you couldn't stop thinking about bread. By day 5 you feel the change. It's not hunger anymore. It's something colder, deeper, like your stomach gave up asking and started plotting revenge. You feel weak, like your bones are losing mass, like your blood's been thinned with water. And then, finally, resupply. A box of cans, some dried biscuits, coffee powder. It's not much, but to you it's a feast. You open a can without reading the label. Beans, cold, doesn't matter. You eat them fast, too fast. Your stomach revolts. You puke behind the comms truck, and you laugh, because your body's forgotten how to accept help. Later you try to pace yourself. Learn to eat slow again. You tear your rations into smaller pieces. You make a biscuit last 10 minutes. You share with the guy next to you. Not because you're generous, because you know what it's like when there's nothing. Food stops being food. It becomes survival. It becomes math. It becomes guilt. You remember the civilians, the ones who offered you bread when they had nothing. You didn't want to take it, but they insisted. Now you wonder if they skipped a meal for that piece. You think about that when you scrape the last smear of jam from a packet. When you fold the wrapper neatly and pocket it like it's worth something. Because out here, it is. Out here, hunger doesn't just take from the body. It takes from the mind. It sharpens your thoughts into knives. Makes you resent the guys who got extra. Makes you question the ones who eat when you're not looking. You learn not to waste a crumb. Not to take a bite you haven't earned. Not to eat everything at once, no matter how empty you feel. Hunger changes you. And even when the food comes back, the fear doesn't leave. You still tuck away crackers in your pack. Still count the calories on instinct. Still wake up in the middle of the night thinking about your mother's stew, even though you haven't tasted it in years. You go home and clean your plate like a ritual. Friends say, "You know, you don't have to eat so fast." You smile. Say nothing. Because they don't understand. Hunger was never just a feeling, it was a rule, a warning, right, a countdown. And part of you still hears the tick. They tell you you're done. Tour's over, papers signed, flights booked. You sit in a folding chair outside a tin office while someone stamps a clipboard and says you're cleared. You nod, you salute, you walk away, but you don't feel finished. You don't feel anything, really. Just tired. Not the kind of tired that goes away after sleep. The kind that settles into your muscles and bones and teeth. The kind you carry, even after the rifle's been turned in and the boots are packed away. They send you home. Not just to a place, to a version of yourself you're supposed to find again. You walk off the tarmac into blinking airport lights, fluorescent floors, people with coffee cups and headphones, and absolutely no idea what's echoing in your skull. They hug you. They smile. They say they're proud. You say thank you. But it feels like the wrong response. You go home to a room that hasn't changed. Posters still on the wall. Books still where you left them. A drawer full of clothes that don't fit right anymore. Your bed is too soft. The silence too loud. You wake up expecting gravel under your back. You reach for your rifle in the dark and your hand finds nothing but a pillow. Your mind doesn't believe it's over. And that's because it isn't. The battlefield followed you home. It's in the shape of how you sit, back straight, always near a wall. It's in the way you flinch at sudden noises, how your breath catches when someone drops a pan or slams a door. It's in the dreams you don't tell anyone about. The ones that make you wake soaked in sweat, heart racing, no memory of what scared you, just the feeling that something's wrong, that something's missing. It's in the way you walk through a crowded grocery store like it's a street in Kandahar, scanning, judging, looking for the exit, reading the faces, noticing who's carrying what. You sit at a family dinner and someone complains about traffic, and you want to scream, because they have no idea what real problems are. No idea what it's like to go 6 days without food, to carry a dying friend on your back, to hear a child's voice just before the detonation. So you stay quiet. You smile. You chew your food slowly and excuse yourself early. Because you're not here to correct them. You're here to pretend. To make everyone else comfortable with what you've become. They tell you it's good to be back. But you're not back. Not really. You're just not there anymore. There's a difference. You try to live a normal life. You get a job. You park in the same spot every morning. You take breaks, you come home, you sleep. But the war's still there. In the rhythms. In the pauses. You hear a helicopter and your heart skips. You hear a pop in the distance and you instinctively drop your shoulders, calculate cover, assess angles. You walk into a coffee shop and note who's behind the counter, who's sitting alone, what's in their hands. People call you intense, focused. They say it like it's a compliment. You don't correct them. You just nod. Because they don't know it's not a skill. It's a scar. Some nights it's worse. You lie awake, hand on your chest, feeling for something. Not pain, not fear, just confirmation that you're still here, still solid, still real. You think about the ones who didn't make it home. You think about the ones who did but didn't survive the aftermath. And you wonder which category you belong to. Because sometimes surviving doesn't feel like winning. Sometimes it feels like punishment. They told you you'd get your life back, but they didn't tell you it would come back different. Didn't tell you the version of you that left isn't the one who returned. Your family notices. They ask questions. Why don't you talk anymore? Why don't you come to gatherings? Why are you so serious all the time? You don't have answers. Just memories, ones that don't translate. You want to tell them that it's not that you don't care. It's that part of you still out there, still walking the sand, still checking your six, still holding your breath at every turn, And maybe that part's never coming back. You learn to manage it. To breathe through the flashbacks. To distract yourself when the edge starts to creep in. You learn how much coffee you can handle before your nerves catch fire. How to fake normal. How to nod at jokes you don't find funny. You go to therapy. Sometimes. You talk. Sometimes. You tell the truth. Rarely. Not because you're lying. Because it's hard to explain. Because it takes too long. Because sometimes you don't even know what you feel until it's already past. One day, you're walking down the street. You see a man in uniform. You nod. He nods back. Nothing is said, but everything is understood. He knows. Just from the way you carry yourself. From the way your eyes never stop moving. That's when you realise you're not alone. There are others. Walking among the crowd. Faking normal. Carrying war like a shadow. It doesn't end when you leave. It just comes home with you. And stays. At first you think you're doing the right thing. You've made it home. You're alive. You've done the job. Now they say it's time to heal, so you try. You sit in the chair, you stare at the walls with motivational quotes. You look across at a stranger with a clipboard and a practiced smile. And you tell them the truth, just not all of it. You say you've been having trouble sleeping, that your appetite is off, that crowds make your skin itch, that sometimes you feel like you're still there, in the dust, sweating through your flak jacket, waiting for a sound that never comes. They nod. They write something down. They tell you, that's normal. They say, you're not broken. But you don't believe them, because it doesn't feel normal, and you do feel broken. The next session, you say a little more. You talk about the fire, the smell of burnt metal and meat. You talk about the convoy that never made it, about the friend who stepped left when you said right. You don't use his name. You don't want to hear it out loud. The therapist leans in like it matters. Asks, how did that make you feel? You clench your jaw. You say, bad. She writes it down. You stare at the wall again. By the third session, you stop talking. You sit in silence and nod when she checks in. You tell her you're doing okay. You lie. Because you've started to realise something. The more you tell, the worse it gets. Not because of her, because of you, because talking digs it up. And once it's out, it doesn't go away. It sticks to your ribs and pulses under your skin and keeps you awake longer than any nightmare. You try talking to someone else. A buddy. Someone who was there. You meet at a bar. You don't even plan to talk about it. But the subject drifts like smoke from a fire you thought was out. He says, you remember that outpost in Kunduz? You nod. He sips his beer and goes quiet. You both know what happened there. You both know who didn't make it. And neither of you finishes the story. The silence is heavy, comfortable, necessary. You sit in it like a blanket you can't fold. Later, you try again. A group this time. Vets in folding chairs sharing their pieces. Some are raw, some talk too much, some don't talk at all. You introduce yourself, you keep it brief. A rank, a tour, a shrug. Someone nods. You listen to their stories and feel like yours doesn't belong. Not because it wasn't real, because you don't want to relive it through someone else's mouth. You shake hands, you thank them, you don't go back. After that, you stop trying. You stop filling out surveys. You stop answering calls from the VA. You stop mentioning the dreams, the cold sweats, the way your hands shake when you hold the steering wheel for too long. You stop asking for help because the world isn't built to carry what you've brought back, and you're tired of being the one who has to translate it. People say you should talk about it. They mean well. They quote slogans and hashtags. It's okay to not be okay. Real strength is vulnerability. You nod, you smile, you say thanks. Then you go back to your room, lock the door, and sit in the dark with a bottle of water and the hum of the refrigerator. You start carrying the weight alone. Not because it's noble, because it's quieter. Because every time you open up, the questions come. And the questions lead to places you can't afford to go, places that don't have exits, places where answers come with memories attached like barbed wire. So you build your own system. You keep a notebook with no words in it, just scratches, symbols, the code only you understand. You run in the mornings when it's still dark. You wear headphones but never play music. You keep the volume low on purpose just in case. You don't cry, not because you don't want to, because if you start, you're afraid you won't stop. You become an expert at pretending. You go to work, you nod in meetings, you laugh at the right jokes, you answer emails, you shake hands. But behind your eyes there's a map of every place you've ever been, and it redraws itself every time a car backfires or someone drops a glass. You start saying "I'm good" like it's a spell. Like if you say it enough, it becomes true. You stop correcting people when they call you strong. You stop trying to explain that you're not brave. You're just not dead. That the reason you seem calm is because you've already imagined every way this conversation could go wrong. You stop reaching out, because you remember what it felt like to wait for help that never came. You remember how long it took for a vac, how the radio was dead, how the tourniquet wasn't enough. You remember that even when you screamed, no one heard you for hours, and when they did, it was too late. So you teach yourself to whisper, to stay still, to survive without sound. You still want help, of course you do, but it has to be the kind that doesn't come with a clipboard, the kind that doesn't ask questions you're not ready to answer, the kind that doesn't reduce what you've lived through to a word like trauma. That word's too small. It doesn't fit. You stop asking for help because you've already built the structure without it. Because somewhere along the way you stopped hoping anyone else could lift what's sitting on your chest. And maybe you're right. Maybe no one can. But some days you still think about it. What it would feel like to hand the weight over. To rest. To breathe without bracing. And then something shakes. A door slams. A voice rises. And just like that, you remember where you are. And you hold it all in again. You never thought about it before. Not consciously. But now it's automatic. Every room, every hallway, every open space. You scan for corners, for cover, for walls. You walk in, eyes sweeping the exits, corners, windows, not looking for furniture, looking for threats. And then you settle, always with your back to the wall. At restaurants, you pick the seat facing the door. At parties, you linger by the edge, one shoulder brushing the drywall. In waiting rooms, you don't grab the nearest chair. You grab the safest one, the one with a field of view. You don't even notice you're doing it anymore. Your body just knows. Because out there, having your back exposed was a risk, a mistake, an invitation. The first time it happened was early in your tour. You were resting against a sandbag wall, half asleep. Your rifle on your lap, no big deal. Then the gunfire started. And you were the slowest to move. Because you had to twist. Because your back was turned. Because you trusted a direction you shouldn't have. You learned that day. No one told you. You felt it. Now it's in your bones. You don't sit at the bar. You sit at the end of the bar. You don't stand in the middle of a crowd. You move to the edge. You avoid putting anything between you and your line of sight. Mirrors make you uneasy. Glass doors? Worse. You trust walls. They don't move. They don't lie. They don't shoot. You've had arguments about it. Someone says, "Come sit over here." You hesitate. They ask why. You say, "I'm good here." They push. You move anyway. But the whole time your body is humming. Your eyes dart. Your foot taps under the table like it's itching for cover. You nod along to conversation, but you're not really there. You're watching shadows, tracking voices, reading the room like a battlefield. Because even if there's no danger, your brain doesn't care. It's not about what's happening. It's about what could. You explain it once to someone close. They ask what the big deal is. You say, "I just don't like having my back exposed." They laugh. "What? Are you expecting to get jumped at Olive Garden?" You smile, but inside something sinks. Because they don't get it. Because they can't. You don't say, "I saw a guy die that way." You don't say, "It's not about this place. It's about every place I've ever been where the door wasn't locked and the walls didn't protect anyone." You just stay quiet, and next time you drive separate. In your own home, you still do it. You arrange your furniture around sight lines. Your bed is against the far wall, not under the window. You sit on the edge of the couch when watching TV. If someone knocks, you freeze, listen, then check the peephole before opening anything. You tell yourself it's just habit. But it's not. It's instinct. It's the part of your brain that never demobilized. The part that still thinks it's on patrol, that walls are armor, and that peace is always temporary. You try to unlearn it. You read about mindfulness. You practice grounding. You try to sit with your back open once just to see. It lasts 5 minutes. Your palms sweat. Your shoulder blades twitch like they're exposed. Your ears strain for footsteps that aren't coming. You give up. You return to the corner, to the wall, to safety. One night you're at a wedding. It's loud, full of lights and bodies and music. You find your way to the perimeter. Someone asks why you're not out dancing. You say you're good. But really, you don't know how to relax in the middle of things. Not anymore. Being surrounded means vulnerability. You don't feel like a guest. You feel like a target. You watch people laugh, spin, lose themselves in rhythm. And for a second you wonder what it would be like to join them. To forget where the exits are. To not care who's standing behind you. You take a step, then another. Then your gut tightens. You feel a chill crawl up your spine. You return to the wall. Take a sip of water. And pretend you weren't about to move. It's not fear. Not really. It's readiness. A reflex. A blueprint etched into your nervous system. The war carved it into you. And now you keep your back to the wall, not because you expect something to happen, but because you remember what it felt like when it did. When there was no wall. When you turned too late. When the last thing you saw was movement where there shouldn't have been any. You don't explain that to people. You let them think it's a preference. An eccentricity. A quirk. But you know better. It's survival. And it's permanent. You think it's over. You made it out. You're not bleeding. You're not bandaged. You've got all your limbs and most of your mind. But then something small breaks. You wake up and your jaw aches from grinding it all night. You stretch your shoulder and it doesn't move right. You try to run like you used to and your knees lock up halfway through the first mile. You get a headache that feels like a pressure cooker inside your skull. Nothing helps. Not water, not rest, not pills. You go to a doctor. He runs some tests, blood work, imaging, all clear. Stress, he says. You just need to relax. You want to laugh in his face. Because he doesn't understand that your body's not just tired, it's remembering. It remembers the cold mornings in the mountains when your fingers went numb before you even touched your rifle. It remembers the days you walked 30 kilometers with 80 pounds on your back, muscles tearing microfiber by microfiber until soreness became your default state. It remembers the adrenaline, how it surged and spiked every time you heard a pop, every time the radio crackled, every time someone said your name with that edge in their voice. And it remembers what came after, the crash. The exhaustion so deep it didn't feel like sleep, just shut down. The way you'd close your eyes and your heart would still be racing, like it hadn't gotten the memo that the fight was over. You try to calm down. You really do. You try yoga, breathing, meditation. But your heart doesn't slow just because you tell it to. Your shoulders don't unclench just because the room is quiet. Your spine stays rigid, even in bed, because your body doesn't trust peace anymore. It knows that peace is a pause, not a promise. Your back hurts, all the time, but you don't talk about it. You take the pain like you took the silence, quietly, like a debt you forgot you owed. Your gut's a mess. You eat clean but still feel sick. Your stomach knots itself for no reason. Sometimes you don't eat at all. Sometimes you binge. Not out of hunger, out of need, out of trying to fill something that doesn't have a shape. Your sleep is trash. You wake up in the middle of night, heart hammering, shirt soaked. You sit up and stare at the wall, not sure what pulled you from sleep. You're not even scared, just alert, like your body caught a signal your mind missed. And then there's the shaking, the tremor in your hands after too much noise, the leg that won't stop bouncing under the table, the tension in your jaw that makes it hard to speak. You go for a massage once. The therapist touches a spot on your shoulder blade and your whole body flinches. She says, "That's tight." You don't say, "That's where I was hit." She says you're holding trauma in your tissue. You nod like you understand. But what you really want to say is that it's not in your tissue. It is your tissue. It's in every tendon, every nerve, every scar your skin remembers, even when you don't. Because you can forget things, but your body doesn't. You carry it in the way you stand, in the way your hands close into fists when you're not thinking, in the way your breath shortens when someone gets too close, in the way your back stays straight even when you're alone. Your body is still at war, even if your mind pretends it isn't. You try to train it out. You hit the gym. You lift. You run. You sweat. But you're not chasing fitness. You're chasing control. You're trying to remind your body who's in charge. It doesn't always listen. Some days are worse. Rainy days. Cold days. Days when the light outside matches the light from somewhere else. Your joints ache. Your head pulses. There's nothing wrong on paper, but your body knows. It knows what the weather meant. It knows what came with the grey sky and the wet boots. Your spine is a journal. Your muscles are archives. Every knot, every strain, every ache. It's a page from a story your mouth hasn't told. And the truth is, you might never tell it. But your body will. In the mornings when you can't stand straight. In the nights when you twitch awake from nothing. In the silence between your heartbeat and the next breath. When everything feels like it might go wrong again. The war didn't stop when the shooting did. It just moved in. And now it lives in your bones. You left them behind. Not on purpose, not all at once. Piece by piece. Day by day. Little fragments of yourself that never got on the helicopter. Never made it past the dust. Never got out of that valley. The mountains took them. Took them like they take everything. Slowly, with silence and certainty. You remember the way the air changed as you climbed. Thin, dry, clean, but not safe. Like the kind of quiet that hums right before a shot is fired. You remember how your breath got shorter, how the sun stung your eyes, how the wind carried sounds farther than they had any right to go. The mountains don't echo the way you expect. They absorb. They swallow things whole. You scream and it dies in your throat. You fire and the shot disappears into nothing. Like the terrain itself doesn't care. Like it's seen too much to flinch. You left your sleep up there. You haven't truly rested since. You get hours, sure. Some nights you even close your eyes and forget where you are. But it's never deep. Never safe. Because somewhere inside you the mountains are still watching. Still waiting. You left your fear there too. Not because you beat it, because you used it all up. Out there, fear was fuel, a tool. Now it's a memory, a hollow note that doesn't play right anymore. You left your tears. The last time you cried was in that pass, behind a rock, rifle across your chest, the sun going down, the silence thick. Someone had just died. Quick, ugly. And you sat there shaking, tears falling without sound because there wasn't time for noise. You wiped them away and kept moving. You never cried again. You left your humour. The real kind. The belly laughs. The stupid jokes that made you wheeze. The kind of laughter that made life feel light. Now you laugh politely. Now you smirk. But that weightless laugh? That one stayed behind, buried under ash and dust and the footprints of people who didn't come back. You left your trust. Because you learned that safety isn't a guarantee. That plans fall apart. That people freeze. That sometimes there's nothing between you and dying except your own two hands. You still test doors twice. You still keep your keys between your fingers when you walk alone. Not because you expect danger, because you remember it. You left your voice, the part of you that used to speak easily. Now you think before you talk. Now you measure every word like it might go off in your hand. You left parts of your memory, whole chunks, gone. Dates, names, what day it was when that explosion happened. You look at old photos and feel nothing. Like someone else lived that life. Like you're staring at a ghost who doesn't know what's coming. You left your patience. Things irritate you now. Small things. Noise. Waiting. People complaining about nonsense. You want to shake them. Tell them they don't know how easy they have it. But you don't. Because that part of you, the one that wanted to explain, stayed behind too. You left someone else entirely, a version of you that still believed, in order, in justice, in good guys and bad guys. That guy vanished somewhere between the 6th checkpoint and the first time you saw a child with a bomb strapped under his jacket. You don't remember when it happened, but you know it did, because when you got home you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the eyes. You tell yourself it's fine. That leaving parts behind was necessary. That you couldn't carry it all. That the mountains had to take something. But some nights, when the wind outside sounds just like it did up there, when the sky turns that same shade of pale blue just before it gets dark, you swear you hear yourself calling back. Not out loud. Not with your voice, but something deep. Something real. You stand at the window. You close your eyes, and you can almost feel the weight of your gear, the slope of the ridge, the burn in your calves as you climbed, the sound of boots on loose stone, the silence before the next move. You open your eyes. You're home, but you're not whole, and you never will be, because some parts of you stayed in the mountains, and they're not coming back. You think you know what it's like. You've seen the movies, read the headlines, listen to the podcasts. You hear Soviet-Afghan war, and you picture dusty men with guns, helicopters in the sky, some music playing behind it, maybe slow motion, maybe a cigarette clenched between cracked lips. But that's not how it was. There was no music. Only the dry, grating drone of Mi-8 rotors slicing the sky. No slow motion, just flashes. Red, dust, screaming. Moments breaking over you before your mind could even catch up. You wouldn't last a day. Not because you're weak, not because you're soft, but because the war wasn't about strength. It was about endurance. Enduring the heat, when your boots sank into sand that could melt skin. Enduring the cold, when the sun vanished and the mountains turned to stone and your fingers went stiff on your trigger. Enduring hunger, real hunger, the kind that makes your body cannibalize itself from the inside out. Enduring fear, not the kind that spikes and fades, but the kind that nests in your spine and never leaves. It wasn't about who was toughest. It was about who could keep going, even after the friend next to you bled out into the dirt. Even after command sent you to take a ridge with bad intel and no backup. Even after you watched villagers dig out their dead with their hands because the Soviets collapsed the roof with mortar fire. You wouldn't last a day, not because you couldn't carry the weight, but because the weight never came off. You didn't get to set it down when the mission ended. You didn't go back to base and laugh it off. You went back and stared at the wall, cleaned your weapon, waited. For the next movement, the next ambush, the next time the ground exploded under your feet. You wouldn't last a day. Not in a war with no front lines, where the enemy wasn't in uniform. Where the 12-year-old with a donkey cart could be carrying a Russian-made mine and a grin. Where the friendly terrain became your coffin the moment you trusted it. You wouldn't last a day in a place where your own officers didn't care if you came back, as long as the numbers made sense on a report. Where half your unit was half drunk by noon because no one was checking and no one gave a damn. Where mail came once every 6 weeks. Maybe. And by the time you got a letter, the person who sent it had already moved on. You wouldn't last a day because the war didn't stop. There were no breaks, no clear battles. Just weeks and months of sweat and rot and dust and grief. Days blurring into each other until you lost track of what month it was. Until you forgot how to speak without barking. Until your whole world shrunk to a 30-meter circle around your boots. And when you finally left, when your boots came off and you stepped into civilian air again, you thought you made it. You thought it was over. It wasn't. Because the war stays. In your lungs. In your hands. In your eyes. You carry it into your sleep. Into your job interviews. Into your relationships. Into your quietest moments. You never stop hearing the sounds. You never stop checking the exits. You never stop flinching when someone says relax, because they don't know what it means to be truly tense, to be bent like a bowstring for months, to be ready to die so often that staying alive feels unnatural. You wouldn't last a day, not because you're a coward, but because you haven't been trained to stop being human. That's what this war did. It hollowed you out and filled you with instinct. It burned out the parts of you that once cared and replaced them with protocols. You don't feel, you react. So, when someone says, "You're so calm under pressure," you nod. But what you don't say is, "There is no pressure anymore." Not after that. What scares other people barely registers now. Traffic, schedules, late rent. You've lived with death breathing on your neck for so long nothing else can touch you. And that's not strength. That's damage. You wouldn't last a day. But that's not your fault. Because no one should have to. No one should know what it feels like to hold your breath for 3 hours while pinned in a dry ravine, bleeding from a wound you can't see, listening to mujahideen footfalls pass meters from your face. No one should know what it's like to dig through the rubble of a bombed-out village looking for someone's child who isn't crying anymore. No one should know what it's like to send the same patrol route every week, praying the enemy doesn't realize you haven't changed it, because HQ didn't approve the adjustment in time. So, when we say you wouldn't last a day in the Soviet-Afghan war, we mean it. Not as an insult. Not as a dare. As a truth. Because we barely lasted it ourselves. And some of us didn't. Thanks for listening. If this story meant something to you, leave a like, drop a comment. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories they don't put in textbooks or movies, subscribe. You'll be helping us keep the memories alive, for the ones who came back and the ones who didn't. Sleep well. You're safe now. We weren't. So, when we say you wouldn't last a day in the Soviet